I was a boy from Brooklyn who fell in love with a sound, not a particular song, not a singer, just the sound itself, a rhythm in the street, a hum in the air, the noise of life that somehow made sense when it turned into music. I didn't come from money. I didn't come from fame. But I came from a place where dreams were still possible, even if they looked ridiculous to everyone else. My parents worked hard. They didn't understand the idea of being a songwriter. Back then, that wasn't a real job. But I couldn't escape it. Even as a kid, I'd lie in bed hearing melodies that no one else could hear. It wasn't ambition. It was compulsion. When I first picked up a guitar, it was like shaking hands with destiny. That instrument fit me, not just in my hands, but in my heart. Suddenly, I had a voice that could say what I couldn't. I started writing songs, simple things at first, little stories, heartbreak, hope, hate, love, the things that make us human. And slowly, the songs started to find people. People who said, "Neil, you wrote what I feel, but never knew how to say." That was all I ever wanted, to connect. The first real success came when other artists began to sing my songs. Hearing someone else bring my words to life was strange and beautiful. But deep down, I wanted to sing them myself. I wanted people to hear not just the lyrics, but the heartbeat behind them. So I stepped onto a stage for the first time, terrified, sweating, my hands shaking. And when I sang, everything else disappeared. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. That was the moment I knew this was what I was meant to do. From that night forward, I wasn't just a songwriter. I was a performer. And soon, the world began to notice. The 60s and 70s were wild. Everything felt new, and I was right in the middle of it. The songs poured out of me like they'd been waiting for years. Sweet Caroline, Cracklin' Rosie, Song Sung Blue, Hello Again. Each one came from somewhere personal. A memory, a moment, a feeling I couldn't keep to myself. People called me the Jewish Elvis. I never liked that. Elvis was Elvis. I was just Neil, a kid who loved melodies and stories and the thrill of turning emotions into sound. The audiences grew. The lights got brighter. The cheers got louder. But so did the expectations. When you stand in front of 50,000 people, you realize something. You don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to them. Every night, they bring you their memories, their joy, their pain, and you give them back pieces of your soul. And the strange thing is, it feels good. Until it doesn't. I spent decades chasing the next stage, the next tour, the next connection. I told myself it was passion, and it was. But it was also fear. Because if the music stopped, who was I then? I worked harder than anyone realized. When the crowd went home, I'd stay up writing until dawn. When others took breaks, I'd be planning the next show. I wasn't addicted to fame. I was addicted to purpose. But purpose has a price, and sooner or later, it sends the bill. The first sign came quietly, a tremor in my hand, a stiffness in my movements. Nothing alarming, just enough to notice. I thought, I'm getting older. No big deal. But the tremor stayed, and then it got worse. The guitar started feeling heavier, the microphone harder to hold steady. At first, I hid it. I'd joke, must be the lights, the nerves, the caffeine. But deep down, something whispered, this isn't going away. Years went by. Doctors, tests, treatments. Words like neurological started appearing in the conversation. And then, finally, one word I'll never forget. Parkinson's. When you hear that, time stops. Everything you thought was solid, your body, your control, your certainty, suddenly feels fragile. I remember sitting in the doctor's office, staring at my hands, the same hands that had written every song, strummed every chord, touched every guitar I ever owned. And I thought, how can I play if they don't obey me anymore? For a while, I tried to ignore it. I kept performing, kept smiling. The audiences didn't notice at first. They just saw Neil Diamond, the showman, the sparkle, the energy. But inside, I was struggling to stay steady. Every night before going on stage, I'd look at myself in the mirror and whisper, don't let them see it. Just get through the show. And somehow, I did, for a while. But the body has a way of catching up to truth. One night, I was in Vegas, a sold-out crowd. Lights brighter than ever. The same roar that had once fueled me. I began singing I Am, I said. It's funny, I'd sung that song thousands of times. But that night, the words hit differently. I cried. I am, said I, and I am lost. I can't even say why. For the first time, they weren't lyrics. They were confession. My hand trembled so badly I had to grip the mic with both hands. Halfway through, I looked out and realized this might be the last time. The audience had no idea. They were smiling, singing, waving their phones in the air. And I smiled back, because I didn't want them to see the fear. Great as they deserved joy, not sadness. After the show, I went back to my dressing room, closed the door, sat down, and cried. Not because of pain, not even because of the diagnosis, but because I knew that the one thing I loved most in this world was slipping away, note by note, gesture by gesture. How do you say goodbye to the stage when it's been your home for 60 years? How do you let go of the noise that became your heartbeat? I didn't know the answer then, but I would learn it, painfully, in the years that followed. That was the beginning of the end, though I didn't call it that. To the world, I was still touring, still shining. To myself, I was already learning how to live in the dark. There's a strange kind of denial that comes with illness. It doesn't happen all at once. You tell yourself, I'm fine. I can handle this. I've been tired before. But deep down, you know the truth. Your body is whispering something you don't want to hear. For me, the whisper grew louder every month. The tremors, the stiffness, the way my voice felt heavier, like every word was fighting through gravity just to escape my throat. Still, I kept going, because that's what I'd always done. I'd push through heartbreak, exhaustion, fear. Why should this be any different? The hardest part wasn't the pain. It was the uncertainty. Some days, I felt almost normal. My hands steady, my spirit strong. And then, the next day, I'd wake up and barely be able to button my shirt. You start bargaining with yourself. Just one more tour, one more show, one more chance to feel alive. I remember standing backstage one night, hearing the crowd chanting my name, Neil, Neil, Neil. It should filled me with joy, but instead, it filled me with fear, because I didn't know if I could give them what they came for. The lights came up, the music started, and for the first few minutes, I was fine. But halfway through Forever in Blue Jeans, my legs started to shake. Not from nerves, from weakness. And I realized, in that moment, I was fighting a battle I couldn't win. After the show, my manager found me sitting in the dressing room, head in my hands, drenched in sweat. He said, Neil, maybe it's time to take a break. I looked at him and said, if I stop now, I may never come back. And I was right. A few months later, the doctors confirmed what I already feared. The Parkinson's had progressed. They said, you can still sing, but touring, the travel, the stress, it will make it worse. I nodded, pretending to listen, but my mind was far away on the stage. The lights, the audience. How do you retire from your heartbeat? I didn't announce it right away. I needed time to understand what it really meant. For 60 years, every morning had a purpose, a song to finish, a flight to catch, a show to play. And now I was being told that the stage was closed. I tried to imagine life without it, and I couldn't. I'd wake up expecting to hear the crew setting up equipment, the low hum of amplifiers being tested, the laughter of the band during sound check. Instead, there was silence, and it was deafening. I thought about doing a farewell tour, one last run, one final thank you, but my body said no. The tremors had grown worse. Some nights, even holding a glass of water felt like lifting a weight. I realized I couldn't keep pretending. In 2018, I announced that I was retiring from touring. It felt surreal saying those words out loud. Retiring. I'd never used that word before. I'd always believed music was something you lived, not something you left. The news spread quickly. Headlines everywhere. Neil Diamond retires due to Parkinson's disease. But behind the headlines, I was just a man sitting quietly in his kitchen, trying to understand how to start the next chapter of a book I never planned to finish, when the first messages from fans came pouring in. Letters, videos, stories from around the world. I cried, because I realized I hadn't been singing to them all these years. I'd been singing with them, and even if I couldn't perform anymore, the songs had already done their job. Still, until I struggled for months. I couldn't even look at my guitar. It sat in the corner, silent, accusing. Every time I walked past it, I felt the ache, the reminder of what I'd lost. Then, one morning, something changed. I walked over, picked it up, and just held it. Didn't try to play, didn't try to sing, just held it. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Gratitude, because even though my hands shook, even though my voice wasn't what it used to be, this guitar had carried me through a lifetime. And I realized maybe I didn't need a crowd to keep playing. Maybe it was enough to just play for myself. So I started writing again, quietly, privately, not for charts, not for radio, not for fame, just to remember who I was. The songs came slower, gentler, more about reflection than performance. It's strange. When you lose what you thought defined you, you discover parts of yourself you never knew existed. I began to appreciate the stillness, the mornings with my wife, the laughter of my children, the quiet moments that fame never allowed. I learned that there's music even in silence. You just have to listen differently. In 2020, I performed one last surprise show, a small set for firefighters battling wildfires near my home in Colorado. No cameras, no lights, no spectacle, just me, my guitar, and a handful of heroes who'd risked their lives for others. I remember their faces, tired, dirty, but smiling. I sang Sweet Caroline, and they sang louder than any arena I'd ever played. For a moment, the tremor in my hand disappeared. My voice steadied, and I thought, this is what music was always meant to be. Connection. Human to human. Heart to heart. When the song ended, they stood and clapped, and I felt something deeper than applause. Peace. That night, I finally understood. I hadn't lost music. I just found it somewhere quieter. After that, I stopped chasing stages. I began chasing stillness instead. I learned to wake up without schedules, to drink coffee slowly, to sit in the sun and feel it instead of just writing about it. People ask me if I missed performing. Oh, of course I do. But there's also freedom in acceptance. When you're young, you think immortality comes from being seen. When you get older, you realize immortality comes from being remembered. And songs, they remember for you. Now, when I hear my music playing somewhere, a restaurant, a wedding, a passing car, I smile, because it reminds me that I am still part of the world's soundtrack. Even if I'm no longer the one holding the mic, every artist hopes their work outlives them, and mine will. Not because it's perfect, but because it's honest. That's the strange thing about letting go. When you finally stop fighting the fall, you realize it isn't the end. It's just a softer landing. People ask me now, Neil, do you miss the roar of the crowd? And the truth is, yes, sometimes I do. There's nothing in the world like it. That wave of sound, the lights, the thousands of hearts beating in time with yours. But I also remember what it cost me. The exhaustion, the loneliness between shows, the pain that came after every performance. And I've learned something. The applause ends. But the echo, that echo can live forever if you carry it in peace instead of pain. When I first stopped touring, I thought I'd feel empty, like a man who'd lost his purpose. But as time passed, I started noticing small things, the sound of rain against the window, the smell of coffee in the morning, the laughter of my grandchildren running through the house. That became my new music. There's a rhythm in everyday life that fame drowns out. It's quiet, humble, but it's real. And when you finally have time to listen, you realize it's been playing all along. Sometimes, I sit with my guitar even though I can't play the way I used to. I rest my hand on the strings and let them hum softly under my fingers. It's not a song, it's a conversation. A reminder that music isn't what you do. It's who you are. When I was young, I thought being a musician meant chasing success. Now I know it means listening to the world, to others, to yourself. The silence that used to scare me has become my friend. Wind and faint birds, daylight ambience. Parkinson's took away some things. My steadiness, my stamina, my stage. But it gave me something I never had before. Stillness. It forced me to slow down, to be present, to notice the beauty hiding in ordinary days. And maybe that's what all of this was leading to. Maybe the music was just the road. And peace. This peace was the destination. I no longer measure my worth by ticket sales or applause. I measure it by the moments when I feel gratitude. Because gratitude, I've learned, is its own kind of song. Piano and acoustic guitar blend. Gentle heartbeat, percussion underneath. People tell me my songs help them through heartbreak, through loss, through growing up. What they don't know is they helped me too. Every lyric was a mirror, every melody a map back to myself. When I sang Sweet Caroline, I wasn't just singing about a girl, I was singing about connection. When I wrote I Am, I said, I was trying to find home inside the chaos. And now, after all these years, I finally understand home was never the stage. It was the feeling of being seen, being heard, being loved. And I still have that, even without the microphone. I think a lot about legacy these days. Not trophies or headlines. Those fade fast. Legacy is the way your song lingers in someone's life. Maybe they danced to it at their wedding, or cried to it on a lonely night, or sang it in the car with their kids. That's legacy. That's immortality. And it humbles me, because that means a piece of me still travels the world every day, carried in voices I'll never hear. I used to think retirement meant ending. Now I see it's just another verse in a longer song. A quieter verse, maybe, but one with more meaning. Every life has crescendos and pauses. This is my pause. And in that pause, I found a kind of music I never knew existed, the music of peace. Sometimes I still dream of the stage. I see the lights, feel the vibration of the crowd, hear the first notes of America rising into the air. And when I wake up, I smile, because I realize I don't need to go back. The memory is enough. It's a song I can replay anytime, so why did I stop singing? Because there comes a time when your body whispers, rest. And if you're wise enough, you listen. Because you can't outsing time. You can only harmonize with it. I stopped not because I lost love for the music, but because I finally understood it. Every song needs silence. Every melody needs space to breathe. And maybe my silence is just the final verse of the longest song I ever wrote. To everyone who ever sang with me, whoever listened, whoever found a piece of themselves in my words, thank you. You gave my life meaning. You gave my songs wings. And you reminded me that love, once shared, never fades. Even if the voice goes quiet, the love remains loud. Now, when I walk outside and the wind moves through the trees, I imagine it's carrying pieces of all the songs I've ever sung. And I smile, because somewhere out there, someone is still listening. And that's enough. I'm Neil Diamond, and this is why I quit.